All right. I know you guys didn't get a chance to let me know if you would like to see me react to more or not content, games and stuff like that, because it's the same night as the time that I did the character review for Bleach Rebirth. But anyway, Black Myth Wukong drops in what, 3 days, I believe, and I want to go ahead and see what I can find about the game that is so interesting before I fully decide to get it, because I don't want to get it. The next thing you know, it's kind of like, you know, it seems like that's going the course of gaming today, nowadays at least. I mean, I done got duped by Helldivers 2. I got duped by Suicide Squad Kill Justice League was kind of my own fault. And Multiverses. Speaking of, video on that coming soon, because I really want to know what happened to that game. Other than that, I'm using IGN to see what they got to say about it. I really don't even trust this a little bit, because IGN has been kind of, I mean, I've never watched like game reviews until this night fully. But from what I always hear about IGN is that they are not that good at reviewing games as people make it seem. I could be wrong, that information could be wrong, but don't shoot the messenger, alright?
Hey y'all, Mitchell Saltzman here. I'm the reviewer of Black Myth Wukong, and just a quick note about this review. As
Alright,
part of
Mitchell.
the embargo agreement set for this game, I am unable to show you footage beyond Chapter 2, which
Okay.
presents a bit of a problem because a lot of the technical issues that I have with this game that I specifically call out in this review occurred after Chapter 2. So
Wait, what? Alright, so he didn't have issues until after chapter 2 of the game. One, I do need to figure out how long this game is, and two, why weren't they, I don't know, I don't know. I guess it would make a little bit of sense for them to be like, yeah, nah, you can't show none of the bad stuff. I wonder what problems
unable
he
to
had,
actually
though.
show them. So we're going to do two different video reviews this time. This
Word.
first one will abide by their restrictions and only show footage from the first two chapters, but we will also be posting a more complete review with the relevant footage added in on launch day.
Alright.
And with that, on with the review for Black Myth Wukong.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I've never been so utterly
Yo,
blown
the
away
music
and
kinda
simultaneously
hard.
so unbelievably frustrated by a game as I have been with Black Myth Wukong.
What?
This is undoubtedly one of the most ambitious and impressive action games I've played. It's stunningly gorgeous, its combat is fantastic.
I forgot it's supposed to play like an action
It's
game.
incredibly
Hold up,
challenging.
didn't they say that it's supposed to play a lot like Devil May Cry? I'm pretty sure I heard something saying that it's supposed to play a little bit like that.
But always
I'm
satisfying
not sure
to
how,
overcome,
though.
and the
I'm not
setting is
seeing any,
refreshingly unique and
you know?
steeped in rich Chinese culture.
Oh, yo, where his head go? Okay, you spitting.
Despite
I
all of
guess.
that, it often feels like it's barely holding it all together. I suffered numerous
Yo.
crashes, despite having a top-of-the-line setup with a GeForce RTX 4090. Not to mention the multiple times I fell through the ground and died in the final phase of a boss fight. Or the way
Okay, so it seems like you've been having PC problems. I've never had any of these issues at all playing any sort of game. I lied. Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, went back, played that, never again. That game, it is so annoying. It's so annoying. The first area is like riddled with bugs and stuff. That and Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order.
characters would randomly switch from English to Chinese, or the
Okay.
way the dialogue audio would just drop out altogether and leave me completely in the dark during an important cutscene.
Okay,
It's
so
a
this
rickety
is all
roller
PC
coaster for
then.
sure, and there were definitely spots during the ride where I was not having a great time. But taken as a whole, this is one adventure where the bumps are worth it.
Yo, this game looks so fluid and so nice. This kind of reminds me a little bit of how Dragon's
Black Myth
Dogma
Wukong's story
2
is somewhat of a follow-up
Just
to the classic novel
like
Journey to the
how
West
fluid it is,
by
though.
Wu Chenggen, a book that I only personally know thanks to very loose adaptations like Dragon Ball and Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
I
That
have
surface-level familiarity didn't
none
help
of
much
that.
though, as the interpretation that the developers at Game Science have crafted here is laden with references to characters and events from the novel without doing a great job of bringing you up to speed on who Sun Wukong is or what he encountered on his titular journey. I had to
Wait,
look
so pretty much, if you have no prior knowledge of what's the name of the book, Journey to the West? If you have no prior knowledge of that, then it's gonna be annoying? Question mark? Question mark? That's gonna be kind of weird. I feel like that's a little bit too much. But then again, I mean, I could probably find something to run me through real quick just to figure out who some of these characters is. Besides, I mean, you have to have some type of this character being this character, or some sort of index, I guess I'll say.
Online to understand who Zhu Bajie was, what his history with Wukong is, and what the significance of certain encounters were,
Yo, why
because
his head look
otherwise
hurt?
I'd have been completely lost at times. You play as the Destined One, a literal monkey who wakes up one morning and decides to set out on a roughly 40-hour journey to locate the 6 relics of Wukong. While the moment-to-moment
Wait, what?
storytelling is fairly unremarkable, largely due to a mute protagonist and side characters that aren't given enough screen time to develop, each of the 6 self-contained chapters culminates with a stunningly gorgeous animated vignette that
Wait,
tells a
a
short
mute
story
main
about that chapter's
character.
main
So,
antagonist.
he doesn't
Each one
talk?
is done in a completely different art style, with one drawn to look like a storybook, another using stop-motion animation, and another done in the style of an anime. Every single one of them is beautiful and poignant, and I couldn't help but wish that the main story managed to move me in similar ways.
Okay. Yo, ew, what's that? That thing like a dog cat.
My initial read on
rat.
Wukong was that it was a Souls-like, given the checkpoint system, the stamina bar that governs your actions in combat, and the dodge-heavy fighting style. But as
And that's where I have to agree. I honestly thought this game was gonna be more so like a Souls-like game too. Recently, or not recently, ever since Elden Ring, I've been into Souls-like games. So if it's like Souls-like or a Souls game, I absolutely love it. But at the same time, we don't need a lot of them because I feel like it'll desaturate what's going on essentially whenever it comes to that entire genre of gaming. I feel like it's unnecessary for every gaming company to make a Souls-like game. So I'm kind of glad that they took like some aspects like a stamina bar and like being dodge heavy. I'm glad that they took that and didn't decide to go full on Souls.
As it turns out, Wukong has more in common with traditional action games, like what you might expect from Bayonetta developer Platinum Games, than it does with
Okay.
anything that From Software has made.
That's a lot better
Most
than
of the
comparing
usual
it to Devil
Souls-like
May Cry.
conventions are missing. There's no penalty for death outside of respawning at the nearest checkpoint, you don't use a shared currency to level up your stats and purchase items or upgrades, and
Okay,
while there
thank
is
God.
gear and stats to consider, you largely just go and swap out the old equipment with the new, as opposed to making choices as to what kind of weapon or piece of armor you want to hold on to and upgrade.
You know,
And
they
even
were
though I am
better
a
off
big
comparing
fan of
this to God of
Souls-likes,
War.
ditching those mechanics feels like the right move for the game that Wukong is trying to be. It's
Right.
far more forgiving, focused on keeping you in the action rather than poring over menus or retracing your steps to regain your lost currency after dying, and Wukong is a better, more distinctive game for it. To be clear though, when I say it's
Yo,
more
okay.
forgiving, I don't mean
Yo,
that
what
it's
is
any
this
less
boss?
difficult than a From style game. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that between this and Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, I had more difficulty getting through Wukong's toughest challenges.
Wait, whoa. Alright, I haven't played the DLC yet. I've just started my little Elden Ring journey. Y'all go check that out, by the way. But I just started my little Elden Ring journey all over again. And there's no way that you just said that this game is more, or it has more challenges than the DLC for that game. And the DLC for that game was more challenging, supposedly, than the base game. That's a bold statement. If you cannot uphold to that statement, a lot of people are coming back to this and they're gonna be like, "Hey, Mitchell, that's your name, right, Mitchell?" That's exactly what they're gonna be like. Yeah, nah, you're lying.
But
I
at
ain't
the
gonna lie,
same
this game
time,
look
those
nice,
challenges
though.
never felt
I'll give
unfair,
this game that.
and
And I won't
overcoming
say
some
that
of the
it'll be
tougher
easy.
boss fights was always a satisfying combination of learning their attack patterns, figuring out where I could maximize my punishment windows, and tweaking my loadout in ways that made the best use of my chosen powers.
Black Bear, why? I don't even know why I tried to pronounce that. I probably said that all wrong.
Combat in Black Myth Wukong is simple and elegant, thanks in part to some tools that are really fun to play around with.
It
Success
really looks
hinges on a
complex, though,
delicate
when you
balance
bring
of
up
Twitch
those
reflex
menus.
style gameplay mixed with careful resource management that largely revolves around a focus meter, which builds up when you land hits and perfectly dodge enemy attacks.
See, I don't know how I feel about that little freeze thing.
You gain a focus point whenever that meter
little
fills up,
freeze ability
which you
seems
can then
kinda
spend
cheap.
in the middle of a light attack combo for a varied combo, or you can just use a heavy attack on its own for a powerful strike that can be charged even further if 2, 3, or even 4 focus points
Hold up.
are consumed.
Is
all
that
at
enemy
once.
asleep? I really hope so. Okay, yeah.
You
it
also
looked like
have
they were
access to a
sleeping.
small handful of spells, governed by a mana meter, that are versatile enough to be useful in a wide array of situations. The Immobilize spell, for instance, freezes enemies for a short time, allowing you to get in some quick hits and potentially stagger
no,
them.
see, I don't like that. I don't like. I feel like it's too forgiving. I probably, if I end up playing it and recording it, I'll probably try my hardest not to use it. But then again,
They're
hey,
versatile enough to be useful in a wide array of
hold up, there's
situations.
something
Some
else
quick
that I
hits
want to
and potential,
this,
for instance,
right? Hold up.
freezes enemies for a short time, allowing you to get in some quick.
This right here seems way too confusing. All right. This is way too much I could do with my buttons. I get it. Get good, whatever. But this is a lot going on. What is this? I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. All right. I can pronounce everything up here except for this. This is not English.
Quick hits and potentially stagger them to allow for even more free damage. Cloud Step turns you invisible and creates a decoy for your enemies to focus on while you break away, heal up, and then hit your foe with a surprise attack that can crit. Rock Solid
this game looks
briefly turns you
extremely
into a statue
forgiving.
that will cause an enemy's attack to bounce right off of you, giving you an opportunity for a counterattack. Ring of Fire creates a barrier around you that will initially repel enemies and grant you some health restoration, along with enhancing any stat-altering drinks that you may use while standing inside of it. And finally, there's my personal favorite, a Plug of Many, which lets you make multiple clones of yourself to all gang up on an enemy at once.
And you froze it. See, this game looks extremely forgiving. I don't know how I feel about that. It looks extremely easy. In
Separate
fact,
from that, you've also got transformations, which allow you to morph into powerful creatures that you've already bested in battle. What's really cool about these is that they don't cost any mana, they're tied to a very lengthy cooldown instead, and they turn you into a totally different character, complete with an all-new moveset, special moves that use their own focus meter, and more. For example, one of the first bosses that you fight is a wolf with a fiery bull blade that has a lightning-fast dash attack. When you defeat him, you'll gain his transformation and be able to do that very same dash attack to your enemies. And once you build up its focus meter, you'll even be able to do a hugely powerful leaping strike that can ignite foes and deal damage over time to them. And then finally there are spirit skills, which are earned by defeating certain more powerful versions of enemies and absorbing their essence into your gourd. These are effectively transformations that only last for one attack and are also tied to a fairly lengthy cooldown, but it's great to be able to, for example, use the Wandering Wight's powerful headbutt attack to get an extra stagger after immobilizing an powerful headbutt attack.
Look at the damage. Look at the damage. Boom. That shouldn't do that much damage, yo. This game looks extremely forgiving. It looks way too forgiving.
Stagger after immobilizing
it looks nice,
enemy.
but too
These
forgiving.
Spirit skills can also be leveled up, which makes it so that even the early game spirits never lose their strength as the campaign rolls on. It's an excellent blend of options, especially when mixed with some truly incredible boss fights.
It seems like
Wukong introduces all these elements at a thoughtfully measured pace, so I never felt overwhelmed. Make no mistake, the Destined One is extremely powerful.
And
And being in control of him is definitely a heck of a power trip. Even beyond the many powers and abilities he has at his disposal, nothing beats the feeling of just slamming a 50-foot bow staff down onto an enemy's head.
Yeah, I'm about to say,
I still had to be smart with how I used my spells due to the fact that mana restoration is actually very difficult. This is where the resource management aspect of combat comes into play. I had to carefully consider what spells were actually worth the mana cost, whether I should save them for a more difficult second phase of a fight, and whether or not I could capitalize on the opportunity if I were to spend the mana in the first place. For instance, even though it's my most powerful spell, I often had to hold off on casting my Pluck of Many spell that duplicates my character since it has an extremely high mana cost.
So with him saying that, that does make me want to retract my statement just a little bit, though, not by much, because if all of those attacks, or if a good bit of the overpowered attacks like the immobilize and the Shadow Clone Jutsu and whatever, if it's mainly mana focused, then it's not that bad if it's hard for you to regain your mana. Now, if you could regain your mana just by drinking something like and it be over, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like that at that point, this game is like nicer than any other game. I still feel like it's kind of cheap though that you could stop a boss with a barrier or just freeze them. But whatever, I guess we'll see more of that. If I cast it at a bad time, the boss could simply wipe out all of my clones with an AoE attack before they even got a chance to get some damage in. Sometimes the adjustment I had to make when I was stuck on a boss was a simple change in how I used my abilities, and the act of coming up with a new strategy and having it pay off was always extremely satisfying. Man, that's any game.
While boss battles are where Wukong is at its best, there's also a highly respectable amount of enemy variety in its regular fights. Level design is of the wide linear variety, usually with a clear main path that leads from checkpoint to checkpoint, but plenty of opportunities to venture off that path to discover optional goodies. The rewards for exploration are great too. I found rare crafting materials to make new weapons and armor, special enemies that drop a new spirit skill, curio items that I could equip to enhance my build, and treasure chests that might permanently increase my max health, mana, or stamina, all of which made the time that I took to find them well spent. On top of that, there are also several secret boss fights to discover, key items with mysterious uses that I still haven't figured out, and plenty of more reasons to stray from the beaten path and keep an eye constantly scanning the environment. The main one being that Wukong is one of the most gorgeous games I've ever played.
It
Every
definitely
environment
does
is
look nice. I
brimming
agree
with
with him on
detail,
that.
from the chipped pieces of bark on the trees in the forest, to the real-time deformation of the snow as the Destined One
Okay,
moves
so we
through
got
it
snow
while dragging his
biome?
daffodil.
Okay.
Not only that, but the animation is impeccable too, with wonderful touches and flourishes, like the way your character will do a little hop step when locked onto an enemy, then change to strafing around them as opposed to just running straight on while keeping their head turned. The music and sound design is fantastic as well, with epic drum-thumping battle themes.
Okay.
And
I
melodic
definitely
flutes
see
and
the music
chimes
in this
adding to
game
the
going
air of
crazy
wonder
for
and
sure.
mystery as you explore the unknown.
What's that? The cat lady? Dragon? That looks terrifying.
All that said, this game really would have benefited from a map, plain and simple. The lands you explore in Wukong are beautiful,
what?
no doubt, but they're far too big and too crammed with secrets to not give you some sort of navigational help, especially the second and third chapters.
Wait, what? What did you just say?
You explore in Wukong are beautiful, no doubt, but they're far too big and too crammed with the lands you explore. All that said, this game really would have benefited from a map, plain and
Did you just say that this game would benefit from a map? Does this game not have a map? We're heading into 2025 and you're making games without a map? Brother, what are you doing? That's a that's a nuisance. That's annoying. Why wouldn't you put a map in your game? Yo.
simple. The lands you explore in Wukong are
That's not
beautiful,
right.
no doubt, but they're far too big and too crammed with secrets to not give you some sort of navigational help, especially the second and third
I didn't
chapters.
notice that. There's no
this,
compass,
along
but,
with
like,
the fact that it's
I don't
aggravatingly
necessarily
hard
need
to
a
tell
compass, but
what
I get
obstacles can
lost.
actually be climbed over and what's an invisible wall, can make exploration quite cumbersome. It's a good thing that the rewards are worth it.
Okay. Okay. Yo, this
However,
headless
it's hard
dude has
not to
been
feel
spitting.
like all of Wukong's splendor and detail came at a great cost. I experienced
Oh,
numerous crashes, with
they
one
went crazy with
particular
that.
heartbreaker happening right after defeating an extremely tough boss that I then had to defeat again.
This
Several
man fighting
others
the
were more minor and would typically
Okay.
happen as I was loading up a new chapter or fast traveling to another level, but they eventually add up to a lot of frustration. In addition to that, several times during important cutscenes, all dialogue, audio, and subtitles would drop out completely, leaving me without any clue as to what was being talked about and no way to rewatch the cutscene. Characters would occasionally switch to speaking Chinese all of a sudden, despite me having the audio set to English. The lip flaps of the English dub often don't even remotely match what's being spoken.
Oh, thank me,
Oh, that's gonna bother me. That actually bothers me whenever I realize that in games. I can't look at this anymore. That is
And most of
kinda,
the journal entries you find along the way haven't even been localized yet into English. The worst, though, was one particular fight in which the boss would plunge me down through the ground during the transition to its final
Well, I
phase,
kinda
only to
wonder-
have me fall through the world once I regained control of my character.
I
This
wonder
kept on
how-
happening to the point where I thought
when
my
did they
game
play
was
this,
unavoidably
actually? When
bugged,
was they able to
and I
capture this
wouldn't be
footage?
able to reach the end. But my insanity of trying the same thing over and over again eventually yielded a different result for no discernible reason. These are the kinds of technical problems that game science will hopefully look to address in post-launch patches. And it's not outside the realm of possibility, as even Cyberpunk 2077 was eventually whipped into shape after its own buggy launch. I hope that those fixes come swiftly, because while I still wholeheartedly think that the things that Black Myth Wukong does so right are worth dealing with those problems, I would love to be able to recommend it without those caveats.
Okay. Okay, honestly, I don't care about what this dude's opinion is, because, I mean, I'd rather be able to form my own. So far, from what I've seen from the game, it definitely is it's a very good looking game, and the fluidity of the movement, honestly, that's what's getting me so far. The only thing that's like really kind of confusing me whenever he said there wasn't gonna be a map. That, and on top of that, that whole audio issue, that just might be a PC thing. I'm a console player, all right, I ain't tripping none of that, you know. But like, other than that though, I need a map. If I don't get a map, I'm gonna be very, very confused. That, and on top of that, the combat definitely does look nice. I am nervous of it being too easy though. You guys let me know what you think though. Honestly, I'm still cop the game because again, I would like to form my own opinion about it, and it definitely does look like a very nice game. You guys let me know what you're gonna do. Let me know what you think of Black Myth Wukong. Are you guys gonna get it? Are you rocking with it, or is this gonna be something that you skip out on? I don't know. Y'all let me know though.